Hey, seventh grade, welcome back to e-learning. I hope you enjoyed your few days off, but I hope that you're ready to jump back into Touching Spirit Bear. Today, we're going to be reading chapter 18, just chapter 18. Please make sure that you're only doing what's assigned of you each day and that you're not jumping ahead because you don't know what my expectation for future chapters will be. So, again, today we are reading chapter 18. In your Google Classroom account, you'll see that I have sent you a Google slide. Just like last time we read, all of our packets have been converted into Google Slides so that they are an editable version that you're able to type on and like an electronic copy, and then you're easily able just to submit it through Google Classroom. So when you open it up, your view of it is going to look more like this. Okay, so it's going to look a little tiny. If you're having a hard time reading or being able to like effectively type in the boxes, all you would need to do is go up to view, go down to zoom, and click on 100%, and then that enlarges it for you so that you're able to better maybe see, read, and then type. So I'm going to go through the packet and what the expectations are. This is not due and should not be turned in until we as a class finish reading chapter 20. Okay, so since today is just chapter 18, you might be able to fill in a few of the questions, but you should not be filling in the whole thing. You have to be able to complete chapter 20 before you complete the assignment. So these chunk of chapters are going to be dealing with point of view and textual evidence. So point of view is who is telling the story, who is narrating. And we've talked about that many times throughout the year from the very beginning, and it's something you should be familiar with, obviously, from probably reading classes before me. But there's three different types of narrator. The first one is first person, and that is when the narrator is the one telling the story, and the narrator is a character who is telling the story. So in the very beginning of the year, when we read Charles, we saw first person narration. The mother was the one narrating. The mother was a character. She was the one telling the story. She was the narrator. Second person is one that's not very common. We don't see it too often, and I usually don't focus much on it. But that is when the narrator speaks directly to the reader. Okay, and they're saying you a lot. So I think the closest example I could really have to give you for that would have been when we read A Christmas Carol, but only the parts that Marley did, because Marley spoke directly to us as an audience. And that's a little bit more like second person would be. The third type, which we've talked about, is third person. That's when a narrator is not a character. It's just kind of like an outside voice telling the story. And there's two types of third person. One is limited, and that's when the narrator can tell us about the thoughts and the feelings of one character, usually just the main character. They know what the character's thinking without the character telling us. Another type of third person is omniscient. Omni, that is a prefix or a root that means all, and it means that that third person narrator, that outside voice, knows the thoughts and the feelings, all the thoughts, all the feelings of all the characters. So the character doesn't have to speak their thoughts for us to know it. The narrator can just tell us because the narrator knows that. Okay? And again, that's all reviewed to you within here. And a nice feature that we've added here is next to the little icons of Mrs. Pierce and myself, the little Bitmojis, you'll see a speaker. And if you just kind of hover your mouse or your cursor over the little speaker function, you can press play, and all that chunk of text will be read to you. So you don't have to just rely on what I'm saying. You could click on that and you could hear it. So let's take a look at these two here. This will be the only help I'm giving you. The rest of the assignment is going to be independent. Okay, so it's saying which point of view is Touching Spirit Bear written from? So that's referring to who is the narrator. What's the point of view? All right, so think about that for a minute. Who's telling the story? Got it? All right, it's third person. So what I would do in this box here, I would just click, get rid of that type answer here, and I would say third person point of view. If I'm typing it, you should be typing it too. But that's not enough. Is it third person limited or is it third person omniscient? So take a minute, take a guess. and it's third person limited. We know what Cole is thinking, we know what Cole is feeling, the narrator tells us that, but we don't know what the other characters are thinking and feeling unless they tell us in their dialogue. The narrator doesn't tell us, the characters do through their speech. So therefore, it's third person point of view, but it's limited. So the second part here is asking us, how does using this point of view affect the story? So what's good or bad about having only a third person limited point of view? Think about that. You'll click in the box. And what's good about third person, I think, is that you can really get to know more characters. In a less biased way. That would be especially true if this was omniscient. Being that it's limited, we really kind of are seeing it more through Cole's perspective, but it's not just Cole's perspective. We are getting a little bit of the dialogue from the other characters. Um, what is maybe not so great about it is that you don't know all sides. We are knowing how Cole feels. We know what he's thinking, and maybe we're a little bit more sympathetic to him, but we really don't know what the dad went through or how he's feeling. We don't know if the dad isn't talking to Cole because he's feeling guilt and that's how he's handling it. We don't know if the dad isn't talking to Cole, especially like when he was in the hospital, because he's still an angry man. We don't know if he's not talking to Cole because the courts told him he's not allowed to. We really don't know because we're not getting that connection. So we don't know all sides. Um, we're a little bit less biased with some of the characters, but we don't necessarily know all sides of the story. Okay, so that's kind of how I would respond to that at this point. So, what you're going to do for this assignment, you're going to have to go through and complete what's in this section here, as well as the 3 questions on the other page. On this page, it's the rest of it's going to be focusing specifically on textual evidence. So, what you're going to need to do for this question, it says, when you quote passages from a book to support ideas or answers to questions, word for word support, you are using textual evidence. We do that all the time. I always ask you to write a quote to prove it, to give me the page that you found it in. Textual evidence strengthens your answers by giving proof from the text instead of just an opinion. For the following claims, so this would be like if we were writing a supportive paragraph, this would be that first sentence you write. Okay? So for the following claims, find textual evidence in chapters 18 through 20 to support it. Give the page number for each quote. So I've added a yellow arrow there to remind you, you need to also give me the page numbers. So this one says, Edwin and Garvey think it is better to let Cole make his own mistakes than to force him to do things their way. So from chapter 17, you're going to need to find something specific, a piece of evidence, a direct quote from the book that proves that statement to be true. You would type the quote in here along with the page number. The second statement, Garvey and Edwin are patient people. Patient means you don't get maybe frustrated very easily. You'll take your time. You don't necessarily want to give up. Okay, so find something in chapter 18 that proves that statement to be true. Copy the quote exactly as it is in the story, put it in that box, and give me the page number. The third statement is asking you to look in chapter 19. This is why you cannot turn this assignment in until we're done with the reading. Cole made efforts to show that he really did want to stay on the island, so prove that to me. Find something he did or said that shows me he really does want to stay on the island in chapter 19. Copy that quote, type it into the box, give me the page number. And number 4, Cole, Garvey, and Edwin had many bonding moments together. Okay, there's going to be a lot of them. Pick one that you think is a bonding moment, something that brings them together, makes them more united, more like family or friends in a way. Copy that quote, put it in the box, give me the page number. You'll see what I've done is that some of these boxes are kind of tiny. So if you're running out of room on the margin here, I've added an extra box. And I've done that on the first one too. So if you're typing your answer, you're like, ooh, I don't have enough room, then you could just hop into this box and write down one, the number one, and finish your answer. Okay, I've done it here too. So um, if maybe you're giving me a big quote and there's not enough room, you could always plop, like write two and then plop in the answer. If you need to, because maybe all of your quotes are too much, you can always just click on the box, hit Control C, and then Control V for copy and paste, and you could put another box somewhere else on the page. All right. So in your Google Classroom stream for our class is a link to Chapter 18 being read to you. And that's your job. Take out your books, follow along with the reading for Chapter 18. See, perhaps the first two questions could be answered today, but again, do not go ahead. All right. If you have questions, hop on Zoom. I'll be there from 10 to 12. And if you don't want to do that, you can always email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Bye, seventh grade.